EU leaders have gathered at a summit in Brussels. Two issues on top of the agenda primarily are Europe's defense priorities and US tariffs. Now, the summit is being held just a day after NATO's European members gave in to Donald Trump's demand of increasing defense spending to 5% of the GDP. The threat of America abandoning the military alliance basically pushed the heightened military expenditure through. But the reality is now starting to set in, it seems. And the question is, how will European nations actually afford the substantial increase amid the flailing economies? Now, Europe's problem has been compounded by Trump's reciprocal tariff threat, which hangs in balance. Donald Trump first slapped retaliatory tariffs in April, but suspended them for 90 days to basically allow countries an opportunity to strike a deal.
The problem is that on behalf of the United States, we have a heavyweight deal maker. On our side, European Union, we have a light capacity and capability leaders to negotiate. So the problem is that the American negotiator is very strong. Our negotiators are rather weak. That's the problem.
Now, Spain is the lone NATO member that secured an agreement to opt out of the 5% defense spending target. But the tariff challenge still looms large, even if Spain's Prime Minister calls the United States a friend.
From a more political point of view, what I want to convey is that Spain is an open country. It is a country that is friendly to its friends, and we consider the United States a friend of Spain.
And for Germany's new chancellor, it is an uphill political and economic battle right at the beginning of his term.
This is my first time here. We have a large number of topics to discuss, of course the reverberations of yesterday's NATO summit and the consequences for the European Union. We will have to talk about the competitiveness of European industry.
Trump's tariffs are suspended only till July 9, remember. And the European Union has little time left to negotiate and determine what cards it can play. And the fact is, the ongoing summit in Brussels is critical for the bloc to actually decide its next move.
46%, we're charging them 20. So.
And going straight across now to our correspondent, Will Denslow, with us. Thanks very much for being here. We've been, tracking the reactions, like we just played out for our viewers that have been coming in. A lot at stake, a huge decision-making up ahead for the EU, and time is running out. What are you gathering at this point?
Well, when it comes to defence spending, that has been a huge topic of the conversation between the 27 European Union leaders so far at this summit, before they tackle issues such as tensions in the Middle East, as well as the ongoing trade dispute with the United States. But we have had a little bit of information and a communique that has been released by the European Union's 27 leaders on defence, of course, 23 of whom were at the NATO summit in The Hague earlier this week. Now, in this communique, they say that the European Union needs to continue to substantially increase expenditure on defence and security and to invest better together. They also vowed to scale up production. What they say going forward is that they want to they want to have a check-in in October and also be provided with a roadmap by the European Commission on how exactly to turn this talk about more defence spending into tangible action, as many of these countries have now signed up to that pledge to increase defence spending to 5% of annual GDP by 2035.
Right, there's also that aspect of the defense priorities, also, the optics as far as the EU is concerned, because the last couple of months, specifically the last couple of weeks or so, have been a huge test for the bloc as well to actually show what it can do when it comes to, putting up a united front and also putting a way forward when it comes to key global issues.
That's absolutely right. So this is often a criticism charged at the European Union that there might be plenty of talk, but somewhat lacking occasionally when it comes to concerted action, considering the fact that there are 27 individual states, member states, that need often to be on board with any kind of proposal. The European Commission in recent months, for example, has provided a mechanism that could unlock over $800 billion when it comes to defence spending, but there are still differences in the bloc as to whether to access it. We've heard from the Netherlands representative Dick Schoof, who said earlier today that essentially there's no such thing as free money, saying that he was reluctant to join some EU mechanisms when it comes to defence spending. So that just gives a little bit of an example of some of the divisions there on what the EU can do to make sure it can back up its calls and promises to Washington to do more on defence. And we've also seen more areas of schisms within the bloc, things like going forward on Russia. All eyes are on whether an 18th round of Russian sanctions can be passed, but there are holdouts, including from Slovakia as well as Hungary. Also, when it comes to tensions in the Middle East, we've heard from several countries, including Spain and Slovenia, as well as Ireland, that want tangible action to condemn Israel's military activities in Gaza, but that's not uniform. The likes of Germany are opposed to such an action being taken.
All right, so clearly a lot at stake and a very significant time. We're leaving it there for the moment. Will, thanks very much.